Hello, in this video we're going to go through a basic install of Ubuntu 20.04 Focal Fossa in a virtual machine. Here's my VM all set up in VMware. I use 4 gig of RAM, 2 virtual processors, 64 gig drive, booting off the ISO, bridge networking, and the rest are defaults. Wherever possible, I like to exceed the minimum hardware requirements, even though Ubuntu doesn't need all this hardware. It'll work very nicely with it. Power it on. And it boots right to the ISO. A brief disk check here to make sure that everything on the install volume is fine. It's going to work. You have the option to cancel it if you like. No error is found. Great. Sound works right out of the box. So the coolest thing about any Linux distro made within the last 10 years, I would say, Ubuntu included, is you have the option to try it out on your computer's hardware without actually having to install it. This is called a live CD or DVD environment. It runs completely in memory and allows you to test the operating system's support for your computer's hardware. You can try it out, see if you like it. If so, up to install it. No changes are made to the underlying operating system, though any change you make within the live environment will usually not persist. But since we know we're going to install, I'm just going to go for it. Also, live CD DVDs are excellent rescue tools for computers that will not boot. I've rescued data for Windows users countless times by booting their computer to a Linux disk and just copying off the data that they needed. First step is to choose our keyboard layout. Lots of different locales supported, which is English US. And what kind of software would we like to install? A normal installation with web browsers, utilities, games, or a minimum one, just web browser, basic utilities. Do you want to install updates during this install process? Sure. It might make the whole thing take a little longer, but it'll save you a step later on down the line. And the option for third-party graphics and Wi-Fi hardware and additional media formats. The reason why this is here is because these pieces of software are not open source and usually proprietary. Not proprietary in the sense that you have to pay for them, but proprietary in that their code base is not freely available to whoever would like to look at it. Not open source. Some people, that doesn't work for some people. Me, I'm not worried about it. And here we are. So we want to use the entire disk and install Ubuntu, or if we had something else going on, you could create and repartition the drive yourself. That's completely up to you, but you do have to have an idea of what you're doing here. A lot of times, just erase and install is the best option. If you're setting up a dual boot, you're going to want to do this. However, the Ubuntu installer is smart enough to detect whether or not you're going to install alongside of Windows or Mac OS and would prompt you and guide you through the partitioning process to have Ubuntu reside alongside your existing operating system. I'm not a big fan of dual boots because they always go south at some point later on down the line. So erase and install. I dedicate the entire disk drive to one operating system. And it's just confirming you want to write these changes to disk. Where are you? You select your location. and some information about the default account that it's going to create. Just the basics. Your name for your computer, a username to log in, and a password. Now you want to provide a password a little better than the test one that I did, but uh, this is just an example. And also, I make sure you want to require the password to log in. Log in automatically might be cool if you're going to use Ubuntu for something like a digital sign or maybe a kiosk where everyone will use a single user account that automatically logs in and runs some kind of application. Not the case here. And it's going to do it. And shortly after the all file copy and package installation, it's all done. Since we're booting from a live environment, we restart the machine now. It's going to possibly try to reboot from the drive again. So what I usually do at this point is I power the machine off, and then in the VM disconnect the virtual drive, and then restart it. And should be booting soon. Here we are. First run after you log in for the first time is a series of windows asking you to configure some settings. First being connect your online accounts, completely discretionary, but you can do so again at a later time if that's not what you want to do. And live patch is kind of like Ubuntu or Canonical, Ubuntu's manufacturer or creator, I should say. It's almost kind of like their version of what would be Microsoft Update. Live patch, you can sign up for it and you create an Ubuntu SSO account that basically identifies your machine with Canonical and it basically ties you to it. You don't have to do it. Ubuntu will be able to be updated other ways, though they'll be manual. And it's asking you if you'd like to send a hardware list of your install to Canonical. Sure, why not? They gave me an operating system for free. The least I can do is share with them some diagnostic information. I'm not protecting any state secrets here. And lastly, would you like to enable location services for Ubuntu? A lot of times this will be used by the applications under which a lot of the metadata is required for location. Not right now. And lastly, they show you the software snore, which is loaded with all kinds of goodies. Spotify, Slack, VLC, and it's very easy to install. I mean, if you wanted to, you can download the deb source, build it, install it. You can still do that. This is a little easier, a lot more featured. Some decent apps too. Definitely get VLC. We'll do that one. VLC will play anything. And we provide our password. One of the nice things about Linux is that to do a lot of system level stuff, you do have to authenticate, even though you might have an administrative level account. All that really means is that you have the ability to elevate. Unlike other versions of Linux and its predecessor Unix, the idea of a root user account exists, but you typically don't use it. Ubuntu and other versions based on Debian use the sudo utility that allows one to elevate their account status to administrator level for whatever reason they need to use it. And there we are. VLC is installed. And you have a whole bunch of other stuff. And we have our software update. Now this is not live patch. This is just the regular software update utility that gives you some basics. You can see what it is you're downloading. Get some cups updates here. You can just install them now. If not, it's going to ask you to do it later. At the bottom, the GNOME desktop. You can click and show all the applications that you have on the machine. Just installed VLC. More common ones are pinned to the side here, although you can change it. You can put it wherever you like. And you have a basic user profile with a home directory, desktop documents, all that stuff. Over here at the top right, you have menus for power out, power off, lock the desktop, basic settings, network connection, volume, activities, what the machine is currently doing. And if you can't find it by the GUI, you can just type in search in the terminal. Ubuntu software is managed using the apt package management system. I'm not going to get too deep into that now, but that is the manual way which you can install and update the operating system. Ubuntu ships with Firefox as its web browser, but you can install whatever you like. You can install Chromium, you can install Opera, whatever browsers you want. That's basically it. That's Ubuntu 20.04 Focal Fossa. Thanks.